In the heart of the ancient world, a dream of universal knowledge began to take shape. The Great Library of Alexandria was conceived not merely as a repository of scrolls, but as a crucible of human intellect. Ptolemy I Sota, a Macedonian general under Alexander the Great, laid the foundation for this ambitious project. After Alexander's death, Ptolemy established his dynasty in Egypt, seeking to make Alexandria the capital of culture and learning. It was his son, Ptolemy Delphus, a ruler with a passion for scholarship, who truly brought the library to life. Under his patronage, the Museum, or Institution of the Muses, was established as the library's parent institution. This was more than a library. It was the world's first true research university. Agents were dispatched across the known world, tasked with acquiring texts on every conceivable subject. Ships docking in Alexandria's harbor were required to surrender any books on board for copying. The originals were kept for the library, while the owners received meticulously created copies. At its zenith, the library was estimated to hold hundreds of thousands of scrolls. This was not just a collection of Greek works. It was a multicultural anthology of human thought. The Septuagint, the first Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, was one of its most famous commissioned works. The greatest minds of the Hellenistic age flocked to Alexandria to study and teach. Euclid, the father of geometry, may have developed his elements within these very walls. His work would form the basis of mathematics for over 2 millennia. Eratosthenes, the head librarian, was a polymath of staggering genius. Calculated the circumference of the earth with astonishing accuracy using shadows, wells, and simple geometry. He invented the discipline of geography and created the first system of latitude and longitude. Callimachus, a poet and scholar, created the Pinax, the first library catalog. This monumental work organized the library's holdings by subject and author, a revolutionary concept. Archimedes, the brilliant inventor and mathematician, likely studied here as a young man. His principles of mechanics and engineering may have been nurtured by the library's vast resources. Heron of Alexandria, an inventor far ahead of his time, created the first known steam engine. He devised automated doors, fire engines, and complex automata that must have seemed like magic. The medical knowledge was unparalleled, with physicians like Herophilus and Erasistratus making groundbreaking discoveries. Performed the first scientific dissections of human bodies, mapping the nervous system. They distinguished between motor and sensory nerves and understood the role of the brain in intelligence. This advanced medical knowledge was lost for over 1,000 years after the library's fall. The library was not just a place of science, but also of literature and history. The complete works of Sophocles, Aeschylus, and Euripides were housed within its walls. Many of the plays we now consider lost were once preserved here. The histories of Berossus of Babylon and Manetho of Egypt, detailing millennia of their respective civilizations, were catalogued. Only fragments and summaries of these immense historical records survive today. The story of the library's destruction is not a single event, but a slow, painful erosion over centuries. Decline began with political turmoil under Ptolemy VIII Physcon in 145 BCE. He purged Alexandria of its foreign scholars, including the head librarian, Aristarchus of Samothrace. This act scattered the intellectual community and starved the library of its greatest minds. The first major, catastrophic loss of scrolls occurred in 48 BCE. During his civil war, Julius Caesar set fire to the Egyptian fleet docked in the harbor. The fire spread uncontrollably, engulfing warehouses near the docks where scrolls were stored. Accounts from antiquity, like that of Seneca, suggest that 40,000 scrolls were destroyed in this blaze. While devastating, this event did not destroy the main library itself, but rather a significant portion of its collection. The institution survived, wounded but still breathing. Legend holds that Mark Antony later gifted Cleopatra 200,000 scrolls from the Library of Pergamum to replenish the collection. The Golden Age had passed, and the library entered a period of slow decline under Roman rule. Imperial priorities shifted, and funding for the museum and its scholars dwindled. The intellectual center of the world was slowly starving. A further blow came in the 270s CE during the Palmyrene invasion and subsequent Roman reconquest. The fighting devastated the royal quarter of the city, the Bruchium, where the main library was located. Whatever remained of the original Great Library was likely destroyed in this conflict. Yet, a part of the library's spirit lived on. A daughter library had been established at the Serapeum, a magnificent temple to the god Serapis. This smaller library became the new center of scholarship in Alexandria. But the world was changing, and the rise of Christianity brought new ideological conflicts. In 391 CE, Emperor Theodosius issued a decree ordering the destruction of all pagan temples. Theophilus, the zealous bishop of Alexandria, eagerly carried out this order. A mob of Christian zealots, incited by Theophilus, descended upon the Serapeum. They tore down the statues, defaced the carvings, and set the temple ablaze. The scrolls of the daughter library, the last great repository of ancient knowledge, were annihilated. This act is considered by many historians to be the final, definitive end of the Library of Alexandria. The murder of the philosopher Hypatia in 415 CE served as a brutal postscript. A brilliant mathematician and astronomer, she was the last known scholar associated with the library's intellectual tradition. She was dragged from her chariot by a Christian mob and brutally murdered. Her death symbolized the final extinguishment of classical intellectualism in the city. Later story, likely apocryphal, blames the Arab conquest of 642 CE for a final destruction. However, most scholars agree there was likely nothing left of the library to burn by that time. What secrets, what knowledge, were lost forever in these successive tragedies? We lost the complete history of the ancient world, written by those who lived it. The full breadth of Greek drama, including hundreds of plays by the great masters, vanished. The astronomical observations of the Babylonians and Egyptians, spanning millennia, were gone. Aristarchus of Samos argued that the Earth revolved around the Sun, a theory lost for 1800 years. How different would our world be if Copernicus had been confirming an old theory rather than proposing a new one? The advanced medical texts detailing surgery and anatomy disappeared, setting medicine back centuries. The engineering marvels of Heron, from steam power to robotics, were dismissed as toys and forgotten. The destruction of the library was not just the loss of a building, it was the loss of a mindset. It was the replacement of inquiry with dogma, of curiosity with certainty. The fire of Alexandria's library casts a long shadow over the history of human thought. It serves as a timeless and tragic reminder of the fragility of knowledge. It reminds us how easily the accumulated wisdom of generations can be turned to ash. The dream of Alexandria was a world united by understanding. Its loss pushed that dream further into the future. We can only speculate on the scientific revolutions that were delayed. We can only guess at the philosophical debates that were silenced. The lost scrolls contained alternative histories of human civilization. They held different perspectives on the nature of the universe. The library was a testament to the idea that all knowledge is interconnected. Physics, poetry, history, and medicine all share the same space. This holistic approach to knowledge was one of its greatest casualties. The memory of the library became a legend, a myth of a lost golden age. It haunted the scholars of the Middle Ages and inspired the humanists of the Renaissance. The quest to rebuild a universal library has been a recurring dream ever since. But the original can never be replaced. Its destruction was a wound in the collective memory of humanity. We are still piecing together the fragments of what was lost. Every rediscovered manuscript is a faint echo of Alexandria's voice. The tragedy teaches a harsh lesson about the dangers of intolerance. It underscores the vulnerability of cultural heritage in times of conflict. The story of the library is a narrative of human aspiration and human folly. It is a reminder that the preservation of knowledge requires constant vigilance. The Lost Library of Alexandria remains a ghost, a powerful symbol of what could have been. The full scope of its lost treasures can only be imagined. It contained detailed astronomical charts that are now gone. These charts might have contained data from civilizations even older than the Greeks. The works of the pre-Socratic philosophers were likely stored in their entirety. We now have only tantalizing fragments of their revolutionary ideas. The library held countless works of poetry and prose from across the ancient world. Lost epics could have told the stories of forgotten heroes and civilizations. The musical theories of the Pythagoreans, linking mathematics and harmony, were detailed. The loss of these texts created a gap in our understanding of ancient music. The library's destruction was a form of collective amnesia. Humanity had to rediscover knowledge that was once common among the scholars of Alexandria. The slow process of rediscovery defined much of the millennium that followed. The library was a centralized brain for the ancient world. Its destruction decentralized and fragmented knowledge for centuries. The loss of the Pinakes, the great catalog, was a tragedy in itself. Without it, we don't even know the full extent of what we don't know. It was the index to a book that has been burned. The scholars of Alexandria were not just curators. They were editors and critics. They standardized texts, corrected errors, and ensured the survival of the most accurate versions. This critical tradition was also shattered. The library's fall was a victory for ignorance. It demonstrated that knowledge is not self-sustaining. It must be actively protected, cherished, and passed on. The burning of the library scrolls was a warning that echoes through history. Every act of book burning since is a lesser echo of that original sin. The loss created a vacuum that was filled by superstition and myth. Rational inquiry gave way to less structured forms of belief. The library was a monument to human curiosity. Its destruction was a monument to human fear. Navigate a world shaped by the aftershocks of its absence. The secrets destroyed were not just facts and figures. It was the loss of 1,000 different ways of seeing the world. The final embers of the Library of Alexandria cooled long ago. But the heat of its loss can still be felt. Its story is a permanent and sorrowful chapter in the saga of human civilization.